So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Welcome back here at BSN Network. This is BSN Network Podcast here today. It is Thursday, February 4th. Hope everyone's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, February 4th. We are now 4 days into February and just a couple days away from the Super Bowl 55. It is going to be super excited. I'm ready. Hopefully you are as well. Kentucky coming off of another loss yesterday. We moved to 5-11 on the season, another tough loss, and we got to find a way to get better. I know I might say the same stuff all the time, but it's kind of the truth, and it's just one of these things where we're just going to have to find a way to play better as a team, more as a team, less individually, because I feel like a lot of these guys are so focused on trying to get individual numbers, we're not coming together as a team, and I would likely say that March Madness, unless if a miracle happens where we win the SEC tournament, I would so much say that March Madness is probably out of the equation at this point, but, still holding on to that slight bit of hope that we somehow win the SEC tournament and, somehow squeak in. But, even then it's just going to be odd. And part of the reason why I'm like kind of like that is because I can't imagine a March Madness without Kentucky in it. We're in it almost every year, and to have them not in it would just be so odd. So we'll see what happens, but it's definitely not looking good for us. And another terrible performance, and under 4 minutes in each game. Basketball. Late in the game in basketball, on all levels of basketball, college, NBA, all that stuff. It comes down to what you do late in the games. It's a lot of times what happens, especially in college basketball. College basketball, a lot of times those games come down to, what you do late in games, the final couple minutes of games, those are big. And Kentucky has been in a lot of these close games this season. We haven't been able to finish it off because late in games we can't play well. And it happened again last night. We lost by 5, and we're not getting blown out. We're not losing by 50. We were close against a Alabama team who a lot of people think could win it all. We were close against a Missouri team who a lot of people think could, really take down Alabama. We were close against many of these teams. We beat Florida. We've beaten LSU. We've been close. We barely lost to North Carolina. We barely lost to Notre Dame. We lost by 1 point to Notre Dame. We're not like we're getting blown out. We just have to finish games. That's what we got to do. We'll see. We got to get better. Rangers play today. We'll be wearing our reverse retro unis today, so that's really good. We play against the Capitals. Nets have another day off. Knicks played yesterday. Islanders are on a pause right now. And the Rangers also play today, like I said. So, yeah. So, these are the topics for today. I got the Chiefs Buccaneers defensive rankings today, an overview. So I'll go through the defensive rankings for the Chiefs Buccaneers. Like I always do, I will go through it all, the rankings of each defense, or of each team's defense, the Chiefs and the Bucs. We'll go over their strengths, we'll go over the weaknesses like I did yesterday with the Chiefs offense and Bucs offense. I'll go over the strengths, go over the weaknesses, go over how I feel, what they need to do, key players on both on the defense side of the ball. And like I said, yesterday I did offense, so today I'm going to do defense, and tomorrow will be my game pick. So, yesterday I would probably say the advantage went to the Chiefs on the offensive side of the ball. We'll see where the advantage goes today on the defensive side of the ball, so we'll do that. Then Carson Wentz rumors. Decided to talk about this a little bit because Carson Wentz, the rumors have been starting to heat up. I've heard a little bit of, they're willing to trade him. I've heard a little bit of they're not going to trade him. I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm going to give you what I think they should do, and we'll see how that goes. So Carson Wentz rumors, obviously NFL rumors are really starting to heat up, especially, with the Super Bowl nearing, and right after the Super Bowl, it's really just, it's really at that point, it's off season, it's free agency, it's trades, it's things like that. So I kind of want to get into that. Then we have college basketball, Kentucky, NBA, NHL, and and fantasy as well, and then your rest of your New York sports update, like I always do. So yeah, those are the topics for today. By the way, quick thing. Tomorrow I will be doing a special pod, so even if there's any breaking news around the MLB or anything, I'll be pushing that back to Monday. because tomorrow I'll be doing a special NFL pod. I'm going to be doing my Super Bowl game pick, and then I'm going to be doing my Super Bowl game pick. I'm going to be doing my NFL awards predictions. Obviously, the NFL honors are on Saturday night, so the MVP, the most improved player, the offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, all that will be revealed on Saturday night, the night before the Super Bowl. So tomorrow I'm going to give you the main awards. I'm going to give you offensive, defensive player of the year. I'm going to predict MVP, most improved player, and obviously the Super Bowl prediction. That's probably what I'll do there. So that will be tomorrow as well. So it'll be Super Bowl game pick, then NFL awards predictions, and then your normal New York sports update as well. So just want to keep you guys heads up, so you look forward to that, because I'm really excited to talk about all that. I've been holding my game pick in for so long now. I just want to say it. And I can't say it right now. I mean, I'm sure many of you have a feeling who I'm going to go with, but I can't say it right now because it's going to spoil the whole point. But I'm really excited for that podcast. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So yesterday, I obviously did the offensive rankings for the two Super Bowl teams, the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. I did the offensive rankings, told you the strengths, told you the weaknesses, really dialed into the two quarterbacks because, it's a pretty special meeting. Brady going for his 7th, Mahomes going for his 2nd. The Chiefs and Mahomes going for their back-to-back. Mahomes going for a record-breaking 2nd Super Bowl, the youngest player to ever reach two Super Bowls before the age of, 25, 26. So Mahomes is already breaking records. He's already making history. The guy's just unreal, and Brady's obviously going for his 7th ring. So I really dialed in on those guys, and today I'm going to be doing your defensive overview, your defensive rankings, your kind of things like that. I think we can all agree yesterday to take away from it that the Chiefs probably won the offensive battle. I think if you had to choose, the Chiefs are probably the better offensive team. But today, we'll get into the Buccaneers and the Chiefs. I will tell you that it's going to be interesting, this defense rankings. And this defense rankings does make the Super Bowl so special because one team dominates on the offensive end and the other team's really good on the defensive end. So it's kind of both there. But both defenses, I would say, before I really get into, breaking down each team, I would say both defenses, I think, are very underrated. The Buccaneers have really grown a name for themselves in the playoffs, I think, throughout the regular season with Brady, Evans, all the stuff going on the offensive side of the ball. A lot of people were paying attention to that and not paying attention to the defensive side of the ball. But I think now that we've really seen nationally televised games where we've really seen what this defense can do, it's unreal. They dominated against one of the best offensive lines in the league in the Green Bay Packers. They were dominating Rodgers. He was on the ground almost every play. And the same thing goes, when they played against the Saints. They were really able to get the Breeze, JPP. That was one of the big things. They picked Breeze off, 3-4 times? That game, I think they had 5 total turnovers. Breeze picked off 3-4 times. So, they've really dominated, I would say, the Bucs. And as for the Chiefs, it's been the same thing. They were able to slow down one of the best offenses in the league in the Bills. Obviously, the Bills are the 2nd overall best offense in the league. They were able to slow them down. They were able to, the first game, the Chiefs are able to, the Chiefs have been able to slow a lot of teams down. So, we've obviously seen, what the Chiefs can really do. They obviously slowed down the Browns offense led by Baker Mayfield, led by Nick Chubb, and some of those really good guys on that team. So, we've definitely seen what these defenses can do. And I think it's really been fun. Everyone always talks about the offenses on both these teams, but when you really dial down, the defenses are also pretty well. Now, of course, the defenses are not like the offenses, but they're still very good. The defense at times gets forgotten because a lot of times people are so focused on defense, or so focused on offense, and they're not focused on defense. They're so offense. Oh, how did this guy do today? And no one talks about the defense. So I wanted to spend some time on the defense here. So like yesterday, I'll do the Chiefs, Buccaneers, all that good stuff. Give you the rankings, give you the overview, give you players to watch, the strengths, the weaknesses, because not every team's perfect. And although I'll tell you what, the Chiefs, I think, are one of the closest teams to perfection, and the Buccaneers have been almost perfect in the playoffs. So this makes a fun matchup. So here we go. Defensive overview and rankings. We'll start off. We did the Chiefs yesterday. We'll start off, so might as well just go with them again. They're actually first on this list anyway. Not rankings wise, just when you pull this up, they're there. So I'll get into this. So here we go. Kansas City Chiefs. Let's do this defensive ranking. So like I said just a little bit ago with the Kansas City Chiefs and just a couple minutes ago, about both these teams being a little underrated on the defense side of the ball, I would say that's with the Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs, I will tell you what, I think if you had to choose, you could always go by different numbers. You could go by this season, you could go by the past 2 years, you could go by the past 3 seasons, but I will tell you what, the Chiefs, the year they lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, not last year, the year before that, where Brady went on and played against the Rams in the Super Bowl and obviously ended up winning, Brady's last real big run with the Patriots, obviously his last Super Bowl with the Patriots, because last season, obviously he was not able to make it. This was a Chiefs defense that was bottom of the league, one of the worst in the league, just terrible, just absolutely terrible. And they were not good. And the reason they got to the AFC Championship game was because of their defense. That was one of the big part. The offense, was because of their offense. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, we all know that, and it's still to this day, a big part of it's because of their offense. But then they needed to get over that hump. Each team always, like I said, some teams are 1 or 2 pieces away from being amazing. And I said after that AFC Championship game, this team is a defensive star, 1 or 2 key defensive players away from winning a Super Bowl. So they sure enough went out, got 1 or 2 defensive players, went out, got Matthew, got a couple other guys, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl last year, and they're right back in it this season. So that's what I really think. Everyone's focusing on the offense, but the year they did not make the Super Bowl, they did not have a good defense. The year they made the Super Bowl, their defense significantly improved, probably one of the most in the league. Now, you could say that partially because they did go out and get some big free agents, but you could also go ahead and say part of the reason was because they got a guy, they got a good coordinator in Steve Spagnuolo who's had a pretty solid run as a coordinator throughout the NFL. Obviously, he spent some time with the Giants, spent early part of his career with the Rams, obviously now with the Chiefs, and he's really transformed that defense, brought a whole new system in there, brought a whole new formation in there. He's really changed that defense for the better. And that's what I really think helps. So it's not only the players they went out and got, but it's also the type of coordinator they've got, the guy that's going to work with the players, the guy that's going to really be able to do that. So that's one thing I wanted to say. Now, their defense, you look at the numbers, they might not be the most sparkling numbers in the world. They might not be the best numbers in the world. You might actually have to look at them and say, this defense is meh. But really, when they stack up against some of the top defenses, they don't look that good. But when you stack them up against some of the good defenses, like a defense like a decent defense like the Colts, for example, they've had a pretty solid defense this year. When you put them up against a defense like the Rams, they probably won't look that good. But when you put them against a defense like the Ravens or the Colts or someone like that, decent, solid defenses will get the job done. Will go out there. They're gonna let up points. They're not gonna be a defense that shuts you out every game or gonna allow 10 points a game. They're gonna allow you to get points. But for the most part, they do a good job. That's where I really feel like. So when people always talk about the part of that team that is missing, I can think of plenty of things. The Bills, I think for them to get to the Super Bowl, they need a running back. I think that's all that's really missing for the Bills. And they need a running back and a run stuffer. That's it. They are a run stuffer and a running back away from making the Super Bowl. Same thing here with the Chiefs when they made it to the AFC Championship game against the Patriots. They were a couple defensive players away from winning the Super Bowl. And sure enough, they got a couple defensive players, got a new coordinator in there. They went in, got to the Super Bowl, won it. And now we're sitting here today talking about yet another Super Bowl appearance by the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's one thing that's big, is I think when you might look at the numbers right away, this defense might not look like the best defense in the world, but when you look at the big picture, you look at what happened to this team when they didn't have a good defense, you add Chris Jones, add Tyrann Mathieu, add Breeland, guys like that. Now look at where you're at. You're at your second straight Super Bowl. And I'm not saying that it's all because of the defense. A big part of it's offense, but definitely the defense put the cherry on the cake to make this team go to the Super Bowl. So the numbers might not be great, but it definitely is. Get into some of the players here. Chris Jones, I think, is one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. Aaron Donald, TJ Watt, guys like that might be in front of him, but you also got to realize Aaron Donald and T.J. Watt are on another level. It's not that easy to get onto their level. I think we can all agree. I mean, these guys are just at times they don't even look human. T.J. Watt at times doesn't look human, and Aaron Donald at times is stopping everything. So don't know so much if he's on Aaron Donald's and T.J. Watt's level, but in terms of just situational play, awareness for the game, and just in terms of really being able to shed through blocks, get stops, get deflections, get sacks. I mean, I think he's at one of the better. I think he's a top 5 defensive lineman in the league. He got an extension this year. He has lived up to that money. I mean, he's not a guy that's going to get injured a ton. He's been injured a little bit, but I mean, it's hard to go through a season without getting at least one injury. Whether that's I pulled a muscle or I strained a hammy or something like that. He's had a couple injuries, but for the most part, this has been a guy that's been able to stay healthy. And I'll tell you what, if they didn't have Chris Jones, I really believe this defense would be totally different, because Chris Jones helps the secondary because he's able to get to the quarterback quickly. If you look at the numbers, he's very quick. He's a big guy, but he can definitely move well. He's a very good mover. He's got a really good, like I said, his awareness for the game is very good. You very rarely trick him. When you try to run, a reverse play or an RPO or something like that, he's very rare to get tricked. He's always going to be on top of things. He could really read the offense. It's almost like he knows what play they're running, because when it's a run, he's right there. Like, Chris Jones is in every play, literally. Like, he's almost on the screen every play, meaning, like, of course he's going to be on the screen, but if you get what I'm saying, when the player gets tackled, they show where the player gets tackled. It's almost like 90% of the time he's in that frame, because he is usually near the tackle, he is usually near where the play happened, and he's usually making an impact on each play. I think in terms of impact players, in terms of guys that make the most impact per play, that's not a stat really, but if it was impact per play, I think he would be one of the best in the league, because this is a guy that every play is making an impact on the field, making a mark, he causes opposing offenses trouble. And this is exactly the guy the Chiefs need in order to defeat Tom Brady. A guy that's going to get to the quarterback, a guy that's going to hit the quarterback, a guy that's going to stuff the run, a guy that's going to be awareness, a guy that's going to be able to, really be able to, because Brady does a lot of switching at the line. Brady's been in this league for a long time. He almost knows every single defensive scheme. And Chris Jones, in a way, is still young in his career, and it's almost like he knows every single offensive play that's coming. I couldn't speak more highly of this guy. He's very good. Now, is he Aaron Donald, T.J. Watt level? No. Aaron Donald, T.J. Watt are literally hitting the quarterback every play. Chris Jones isn't doing that. He's making impact on almost every play, whether that's tackling the guy, whether that's, pushing a blocker to the other side, whether that's closing a hole. A lot of times people always look at the tackles and the sacks, but even just pushing your lineman into another lineman and closing the hole the running back's trying to go to, that's even just a big play right there. It's the little things. That's why I love to look at the stats, but you also got to look at the eye test, because some of the stuff doesn't go into the stat book. Even with him pushing his guy into the other lineman and closing the hole for the running back. I mean, there's times you would literally take the guy and push him, and that closes the hole for the running back. He might not get credit for the tackle. It might be the linebacker, a safety, or a corner coming in from the right or the left side, but he made a big impact on that play. That's one of the big things. So, in terms of impact players, very good. Awareness is very good. Their secondary, too. That was one of the big things, was their secondary. Tyrann Mathieu had a really good play, but I think the key defender on this team is that. And to be honest, their weakness on the defense side of the ball, I think is, at times it's just, I think it's just letting up the big play. Because I think at times we've seen them let up the big play. It's just limiting that, and I think Tyrann Mathieu is very good. That secondary's been very good, but at times even it could be a run play. Chris Jones isn't perfect, but even it could be a run play. It could even be a run play where it could even be a run play where you're running the ball and you just get a 15-20 yard game. I think that's one of the weaknesses. It's just limiting the big play, and a team like this is gonna have to make sure they stop a guy like Mike Evans. They've had a couple big plays, and to if you want to talk about defense, special teams, it's not making mistakes, because there's been times where this defense everyone makes a mistake, but there's been times this defense makes mistakes, and they make mistakes in bad times. If they can clean those up and they can limit the big play, you're talking about a very solid defense. Just limiting the big play. I think it's one of the big things, because even the Bills, they had a couple of moments where they was just busted coverage and they had a guy wide open downfield, or underneath was wide open, and Beasley or John Brown or a Diggs or something would have 15 yards of running room right ahead of him. So we saw that a lot throughout the year. So just limiting the big play. But I think key players are Tyrann Mathieu and Chris Jones. Their strength, I would definitely say, getting to the quarterback. They've been able to really get to the quarterback, which I think is big. They're going up against a good offensive line, so it would be interesting to see how that goes. But that's one of their strengths. So to look at their defense, they are, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So they're 16th. Okay, so they're 16th in. So they're 16th in. So they're 16th in the NFL in total defense, which is pretty much just about right in the middle, if you could say, right? They're just about right in the middle is the 16th mark. So they're ahead of, they're ahead of the Browns, they're ahead of the Panthers, they're ahead of the Broncos, they're ahead of the Seahawks. They're ahead of pretty much every other team. But I would so much say that without a doubt, they are, I would so much say that they are the 16th best defense in the league. Numbers-wise, they are. Now, I would say, improved, I think they're one of the most improved defenses in the NFL. I think a lot of us agree on that. But it is, they're about 16th, so they're right about in the middle, which is just about average. They're, like I said, they're not a great defense. They make plays. Like I said, sometimes they make costly mistakes that results in these numbers really getting hurt. So this is how it goes. So yards, they've allowed a total of 5,733 yards. So that is just about right in where the 16th range is, because all the teams behind them have allowed more. They allowed 358.3 yards per game, which actually isn't terrible considering sometimes quarterbacks throw for 300 yards per game, which actually isn't terrible. But a 358.3 is just right about where they are. Like I said, the Rams are the number one defense in the league, so that's kind of how that goes. Passing yards, passing this season, they've had a total of 3,779 yards. So like I said, their strength was they've been pretty good at the run defense, and about more than half the yards have came against the passing game. So 3,779 passing yards a season, and yards per game in the passing game is doing 236.2, which is pretty good. So which isn't terrible, but it's not great. But like I said, really to be honest, it's right in the range of where they are. Rushing, they've only allowed 1,954 rushing yards per game, which is actually better than the Cardinals. That's it. That's the only team ahead of them that they're better than. They're almost better than the Washington, but that's it. Yards per game is 122.1 in the rushing game, which is actually better than the Cardinals. Better than the Patriots. So they were also in the rushing yards total. They were better than the Cardinals and the Patriots. And in per game, they are 122 rushing yards per game. They are better than the Patriots, better than the Cardinals. And that's really it. That's it. The closest would be like 119, which is the Chargers. So that's kind of that. And then points total this season, they've allowed 362 points, which is better than the Bills. Bills have allowed more. Better than the Giants. No, better than the Cardinals. Better than the Chargers. And that's really it. And then in terms of points per game allowed, they allow 22.6, which is just about, that's better than the Cardinals, better than the Bills. Right, the same as the Colts. Which is kind of funny because a lot of people say the Colts might be, actually that's better than the Niners, better than the Colts, or better than the Chargers. So a lot of people say, better than the Bears, better than the Giants, or actually not better than the Giants. But a lot of people say that the Colts could be the best defense in the league, and you're looking at points per game, they only allow about 22.6, and that's better than the Colts. That's right on tap with the Colts. So they're about even with the Colts there. So, like I said, there's parts where they are really good, and there's also some, tough parts for them. But like I said, they're a good rush defense. I mean, they've only allowing 122.1 rush yards per game. It's the passing game that has hurt them, and part of the reason, like I said, is the big play. Sometimes they've made they got to limit the big play. So that's the Chiefs' defense. Now I move on to the Buccaneers' defense. The Buccaneers' defense, yesterday, like I said, I gave the Chiefs probably the advantage on offense. I would have to go ahead and say that the advantage would have to go to Buccaneers on defense. The Buccaneers are the sixth best defense in the NFL. And you know what's funny about the Buccaneers is this is a team that I feel like in a way, since they've came to the team, they've really been well. Shaquille Barrett came to the Buccaneers, all of a sudden has been amazing. Devin White came to the Bucs, all of a sudden amazing. Sean Murphy Bunting. One of the steals in the draft, to be honest. This has been a guy that's been amazing. Came to the Buccaneers, amazing. Jason Pierre-Paul, his career really seemed like it was kind of going downhill a little bit. He had the firework incident with his hand. He had a couple, the Giants and stuff was struggling down the stretch there and things like that. And all of a sudden, tables have turned. He's insane now. The Buccaneers are like the Chiefs in a way. This is a team that at the beginning of the year, when the offense was struggling, the defense was doing everything they could. The defense was doing everything they could possibly do. Everything. I mean, they were doing almost everything they could possibly do. But what I will say is this is when the offense has been struggling, the defense has been on. I mean, the defense, I would say, has been most consistent this season. I would honestly say at times the defense might be even more consistent than the offense, just because of the fact that there's been a couple of times this season where the defense was really, or the offense was really, really off. And I think we can all agree on that. And we saw it a couple of times. We saw them get blown out 38-3 against the Saints. And you could say, oh, well, they let up 38 points that game. Well, yeah, but at the same time, Brady was interested. Brady had one time where he threw like 2 picks and like 7 passes or something. It's tough when you have 2 plays off and then you're already back on that field again. But the Buccaneers really, this is a team that has this is a team that's well-rounded. Are they the best in the league? No, but this is a team that is very well-rounded defense, has a lot of good guys, and they really, their defense coordinator, Todd Bowles, he's, I've always said this, when he was the Jets coach, he wasn't great. It's a guy that defensively is a very, 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 very good coach. They've run a very good defensive scheme. It's a team that likes to switch a lot of up. They will run blitz, show blitz, back off of it, not run it, right? They do a lot of different things, moving parts, which really confuses the offense, which I think why they're pretty high in the league and why they've made some really good quarterbacks look like really bad at times. They made Drew Brees, who was future Hall of Fame quarterback in that Super Bowl game, in that playoff game. They made him look terrible. He threw 3 picks. They turned the ball over. This defense is amazing at turning the ball over. I mean, it's the truth. They really generate turnovers, and that is one of the big strengths here. If you're talking about strengths, is the defense that's really, 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 really going to make you turn the ball over, going to make you, force you into mistakes. And that's, I think, part of the reason, because they generate pressure. They have a good defensive line. They like to run a lot of different coverages at you, right? I mean, how would that be if you're a quarterback and you see a 3-4 zone, or you see 3 linebackers across the top, 4 all defensive linemen, and all of a sudden 2 of those linebackers creep up, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, okay, showing blitz, and then they back off, and then you think that it's, or delayed blitz in a way, where they first off don't blitz, and then they blitz, or they first off show blitz, then you throw the ball across the middle, like, oh, this guy's wide open, they back up and intercept that ball. That is what, Todd Bowles has done such a good job making linebackers really good. And that's one of the really things. He's a very good secondary guy. He's been a secondaries coach a little bit now. But he's been a secondaries coach, linebackers coach. He's very good in the secondary. And I could even say that from a fan standpoint when he was with the Jets. We had a lot of good linebackers. And we had a couple really good linebackers when he was with us. We had a couple really good, moments with our linebackers where he really turned them in. I mean, he turned our defense into the top 3 defense in the NFL at the time. And then this is the same thing goes for the Bucs. He's came here, and all of a sudden the linebackers have evolved. This secondary has evolved. I would so much say the strength. There's so many strengths on this defense. It's really good. It's a top 6 defense in the league. And you look at the numbers, they prove it. And this is another team too. The Bucs. These past couple of seasons, before Brady got here, they were struggling on both ends. They got their defense put together pretty better, and all of a sudden they came here. Brady. They're now in the Super Bowl and things like that. And I think that's pretty big. But, this is a defense that everyone talks about, Brady, and talks about this offense. This is a defense, too, that doesn't get much credit. Like I said, these defenses, this is called underrated right here. Both these defenses, I think, are very underrated because they're looking at who's on the offensive side of the ball. It's amazing. So really that, and they love to use their linebackers with all that switching stuff, with all that switching stuff and things like that. They force them into mistakes, and that's one of the big things. They're one of the best defenses in the league at forcing quarterbacks, forcing players into mistakes. And in a way, when you run 5 different formations at them, and the quarterback is young, especially some of these younger quarterbacks, not like a Mahomes, like a rookie, that might only be seeing the defense for the first time. Late game mistakes, and that's another thing. And this is another Buccaneers defense too, that is very good late in games. Weakness. It's tough to pull one here. But if I had to put a weakness, it would have to be the run. It would have to be the pass a little bit. They're very good in the run game. They're pressuring the quarterback has been very good, but it's been. I think you can almost say the same thing with the weaknesses. The linebackers are very good, and the secondary has been solid, but they definitely do let up a big play a lot, and there's a lot of times there's some of the stupid stuff they let up, like a underneath 5-yard mesh route that they let up for 15, 20 yards. Like, that stuff just can't happen. They've been very good. I mean, they're holding their opponents to only about 80.6. They're only holding their opponents to about 80 rushing yards per game, which is very good. That's actually the best in the NFL. So, they're very good in the rushing game. They're one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL, and that's led by some of the big guys up front, some of the big guys up front. That's thanks. Obviously, they're the best rushing. They're the best rushing defense in the NFL, and that is led by some of the guys up front. So JPP, guys like that up front, and even some of the blitzes they show. Right, 1 minute's a blitz, the next minute's a zone. The 1 minute's a blitz, the next minute's a zone. It's a zone, it's a blitz. It's so many different coverages. It's a safety blitz. We're going back into a 3-4. It's a 2 linebackers coming in. 1 is a QB spy. No, we're just running a regular zone. Right. Todd Bowles loves to switch that stuff up, and that's one of the big things there with the Buccaneers. So they have the best rush defense in the NFL, so that's the strength. Weakness, I would probably have to say, is the secondary, but their secondary is very good. They have Murphy Bunting, who I think without some of these guys in the secondary, they would have to be a one-dimensional defense, which is just rush defense. But really, I think their secondary, too, is very underrated. And I think part of the reason is because, one, their rush defense is so good and everyone pays attention to that, but some of the guys in the secondary are really, really good. So these are the defensive rankings for the Buccaneers. We got they played off of 16 games. Total yards. They've allowed 5,234 total yards, which is right about in the position they are at. Right 6th. 327 yards per game. So they're. That's right in the position they are as well. 3,945 passing yards this season, which is right in the position, which is actually a lot. That's bottom. That's really bottom in the league. That's like only behind the Browns. They are really, really, really far behind in that category. So definitely passing game has to be great. 246.6 passing yards per game. So that's a lot of their people behind them have less than that. They're around like the Colts. They're a little bit like the Colts in a way. Very good run defense, not great pass defense. 1,289 rushing yards allowed. So 1,289, which is actually better than that. That's the best in the league. That is the best in the NFL. Obviously, they're first in that category. Yards per game, they have allowed 80.6 rushing yards per game, which is the best in the NFL by far. 355 points they've allowed, which is actually, it looks like the third best in the NFL. Fourth, they would be fifth in that category. 355 points allowed, and they allow about 22.2 points per game. Which is just below the Chiefs, a little bit. Some of these teams are allowing a little bit less. Technically, the Patriots have 0.1 less, so if you were to go back on that. But even the points per game, still decent, 22.2, which is actually better than some of the teams ahead of them, but that is in that range there. So that's your defense. And like I said, both these defenses are slightly, underrated, slightly overlooked because you look at their offenses and how good they are and the big names on their offenses. The Tyreek Hills, the Travis Kelce's, the Patrick Mahomes, the Tom Brady's, the Mike Evans, the Rob Gronkowski's, guys like that, right? So that's why I think, in a way, this game's going to be high scoring, but in a way, you got to look out for the defenses, right? And no one's going to take away this game how good the defenses were. No one will. People are going to be, Mahomes, Brady. It's going to be that. Even if they only throw 2 touchdowns and 150 yards, it's going to be, Mahomes had a clutch throw late in that game. They're not going to talk about if the Chiefs pick Brady off 3 times, or if the Bucks pick Mahomes off 3 times, or if the Chiefs pick Brady off and then 3 times and then make a fumble and recover a fumble, right? That's really what's going to be out. But that's what happens when you have a really good offense. But like I said, you look at both these teams, to get to that next level, they needed a good defense. Defense wins championships. So this is going to be a fun matchup on the defense side of the ball. The advantage, I would have to go ahead and say, for offense, it would probably go to the Chiefs. But for defense, it would probably go to the Buccaneers, which is about 50-50. Special teams, I'm not going to get into that. If you had to go into special teams, technically the Chiefs are 4th in the NFL in special teams. And the Buccaneers, oh my gosh, they're actually really far. So that's how it is. So let's see. So you could go special teams. Yeah, the Bills have the best special teams in the NFL, it looks like. So anyway, that's what I got for the Chiefs, Buccaneers, and Chiefs and Buccaneers defensive overview and rankings. All that good stuff that will lead into tomorrow's Super Bowl game pick. So that will be that should be really good. But coming up next, I'm going to talk about Carson Wentz rumors. If you should believe them, and possible trade destinations for Carson Wentz, and also should Philadelphia trade him, coming up next. Alrighty. So let's get this up here. Okay, so let's do this. So there's been a lot of rumors. There's rumors. Everywhere. There's rumors pretty much everywhere. With any player, any coach, things like that. There's going to be rumors. There's always going to be rumors in any sport. It's not just football. It's not just football. It's not just baseball or something like that. It's always going to be in this. So, there's been rumors about Wentz really since he got benched for Jalen Hurts. To be honest, part of it, why they've gone overblown is because of the media. Philadelphia media is very hard. New York media is very hard. They're so close together. Philadelphia and New York are, they're just, a stone throw away from each other. So, they're obviously close to each other. So some of it gets blown up because of the New York media and the Philadelphia media, which is, now I would have to say, maybe the 2 roughest media in sports, meaning in regards to not going easy on players. If you're doing good, you're going to hear about it. You're going to get, put it on that high pedestal. But if you're being bad, the entire sports world is going to hear about it. So it's one of that stuff, which is why a lot of players don't succeed in either ones, which is actually kind of, if you find funny, Philadelphia sports hasn't really been very successful the past couple of years, other than the Super Bowl. But part of the reason is because there's so much pressure. The fans, the coaches, the players, the media is so hard on them. There's a lot of pressure, and sometimes you can't play to your highest level with all that pressure. So Carson Wentz trade rumors. Teams have called Eagles about deal for quarterback. Obviously, this all started really after Carson Wentz got benched in that Philadelphia Eagles-Green Bay Packers game. When he got benched mid-game, they weren't doing anything. They just couldn't generate any offense. He got benched mid-game. And sure enough, they went along and played Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts actually almost led them to a comeback. He cut the game to like a one-score game, but then the defense blew it late with an Aaron Jones. He had like an 80-yard touchdown, Aaron Jones did. Really long touchdown on like a 3rd down and 5, I think. All they had to do was stop him and they give the ball back to Jalen Hurts. And I think the city of Philadelphia really rallied around Jalen Hurts, in a way the NFL fan base did. Everyone who loves fans in the NFL, sports fans to begin with in the NFL, kind of rallied around Jalen Hurts. I was even on the Hurts train. I was like, okay, let's see what this guy can do. I didn't really care who won the NFC East, so I was kind of just like, let's see if he can lead this team to a playoff berth, right? Let's see what he does. Sure enough, he obviously didn't, but he still played well, and that rose some questions. Now, I think this would be different. Let's just say Jalen Hurts goes out there and doesn't play well and struggles, and you bring Carson Wentz back and things like that. But with the Doug Peterson firing, this caused a lot of problems. This caused a lot of rumors around who's going to be the starting quarterback. And I'm going to tell you this. This is one of these bad situations you don't want your organization to be in. Because there's always, no matter what happens here, one party's going to be angry. It's either going to be Carson Wentz's, his agent and stuff like that, people close to him, or it's going to be Jalen Hurts. If you go ahead and say we're keeping Wentz, he's our starter, then Jalen Hurts is going to be angry and he might want to leave. If you're saying that Jalen Hurts is our starter and Carson Wentz will be our backup, then Carson Wentz is going to be angry and he's going to want to leave, although it seems like he already kind of wants to leave. So this is the problem with the Eagles, and this is where the Eagles are messed up, because you bring in a new coach, you fire your head coach, you bring in a new coach, and you bring him in, all that stuff, and now all of a sudden, first thing on his hand, instead of looking at the draft, looking at free agents, he's all of a sudden got to deal with what you don't want to deal with, 2 starting quarterbacks that want to be the starter, but one of them's going to have to go and one of them's going to be angry. That's the problem with this Eagles team. And you could say part of this was the front office's fault, because if they should have fired Doug Peterson earlier instead of waiting 2 weeks after the season and then firing him. They should have fired him earlier, and they should have tried to trade Carson Wentz either during the year or recently. If teams have been calling, they should answer those calls. But obviously, they want to keep Wentz. There's been some rumors that they want to keep Wentz. So that's the problem, because then if you keep Wentz and he's going to be the starter, then what happens with Jalen Hurts? Now, here's my personal opinion on this. If I was the Philadelphia Eagles right now, and if I was the GM, if I was the front office, if I was the guy leading the charge, making the decisions here, I would personally go ahead and keep Jalen Hurts and move on from Carson Wentz. Here's my reasoning. Jalen Hurts showed so many flashes of potential of being one of the top quarterbacks in the league when he uses his legs, when he uses his arm. And I've said it all along, coming out of college, I really believe that Jalen Hurts is a first-round talent. I really believe that he's a very good quarterback to come out of college. I've always said this. Through college, I was always a big Jalen Hurts fan. From his time in Alabama, I really liked watching him. And then to Oklahoma, I really liked watching him as well. And then to follow him into the NFL has been really, really, really cool. So, I've always been a big fan of Jalen Hurts. I've always watched him. I've always really enjoyed, seeing what he does, on a day, on a week in and week out. He's a really good player. He puts on a lot of work and things like that. He really works hard. Same thing with Carson Wentz. I don't want to take anything from Wentz. Here's my thing, though, Here's my thing with Jalen Hurts. I think, Wentz has been with this team for a little bit now. It's obviously they won the Super Bowl and things like that with him. And that's part of the reason, too. I would personally go with Jalen Hurts is build around him. He showed flashes. The fan base wants him. Not that means everything, but ultimately these coaches, these players want to make the fan base happy. They want to put a good product out onto the field every Sunday, every game whenever they play, they want to put a good product out on the field. And I think you're having the best opportunity to win games, I think, right now with Jalen Hurts. Now, could that very well change come training camp and Carson Wentz puts in a lot of work in the offseason and he comes in and he's playing really well? Yes, but currently I think what gives you the best opportunity to win and the best opportunity to go out there week in and week out to give you the best opportunity ultimately to make the playoffs and win the Super Bowl would to be have Jalen Hurts. Now, do I think the Eagles are going to make the Super Bowl next year with Jalen Hurts? No, but I'm saying who gives you the best chance to win right this second would be Jalen Hurts. Now, come next season, could that very well change? Yeah. There's been a lot of times where players come out and play really well in the first couple, in their first season coming in as a backup, and then they really just struggle. We've seen that happen a lot. But I don't know if Jalen Hurts is that person. Jalen Hurts has been through a lot already. He obviously got benched for who now is Tua now on the Dolphins. He got benched for him. He transferred to Oklahoma. How to fill big shoes with Baker Mayfield, did that. Now he's in the NFL. So he's faced a lot. So he's worked really hard. So he knows it's going to be depending on what happens here. But if I was the Eagles, I would personally go ahead and Jalen Hurts. Now, I could also make the argument for Carson Wentz saying that they haven't really built around him. They've got one of the worst receiving cores in the league. Their offensive line, there's been so many moving parts in the offensive line. And one of the worst positions to have that moving part is at center. They've had a couple of moving parts at center, which isn't good because centers and quarterback need to build communication, need to build timing. When they call height, that snap needs to be good. A lot of times quarterbacks get so used to one snap, one position where they get to snap. I mean, you see it sometimes. A quarterback will literally put his hands like right here, and the snap will be right there. When you have a new center, one snap could be up here, the other could be down here, the other could be over here, the other could be over here. And a lot of times when you build that communication, build that trust, the snaps are about right here. And Wentz has gone through a lot of that. Same thing with the receiving core. They passed up on a couple of really good receivers, and they took Jalen Reagor. That was obviously not a good decision. And we are now sitting here today, talking about a possible Wentz trade. Now, I think if you build around Wentz better, sure. I said the same thing about Jared Goff the other day when I was talking about Matthew Stafford trade. Jared Goff is only 2 years removed from making the Super Bowl and obviously losing to the Patriots, but having a career year. Wentz is also only a couple years removed from, tearing his ACL, having the MVP year, which they won the Super Bowl. And you can't say that's all Nick Foles because Wentz got them there having that big MVP. He didn't win the MVP. I don't think he won the MVP, but obviously that he had the season that he would have won the MVP, right? This is a guy that's only a couple years removed from that. And how can you get Wentz back to that? That's the question. Do you give him a new coach? Do you put him under a new offensive system? They have a good draft pick, so do you take a receiver there, build around him? Or do you just start fresh with Wentz? Or do you start fresh with Hurts? I would personally start fresh with Hurts. I think starting fresh is a good thing at times. You have a new quarterback. He learns under that new system. Wentz has already been under a system. Hurts has been under Doug Peterson's system starting for only like a half a season. So you go under that new system and you start fresh there. And then you build around Hurts. And then I think you can get a decent amount for Wentz, especially like a team like the Colts or a team like the Patriots that might be looking for a guy that might be the future there. I think that's very well true. So I think personally, if I was the Eagles, I would trade Wentz and I would keep Hurts. And I also like Hurts. I think if you had to choose who to take today, I think most people would take Hurts. And like I said, I think most Philly fans have gathered around Hurts. So to make the fans happy, I think it would be do Hurts, and to give you the best chance of winning, go with Hurts. Nothing against Wentz. I just think right now, young quarterback, use his legs, use his arms. He's got all the tools in the toolbox. He can do it all. I would go with Jalen Hurts. Carson Wentz trade rumors. Teams have called Eagles about deal for quarterback. The Philadelphia Eagles have reportedly received calls about the quarterback Carson Wentz from teams that have interest in potentially acquiring him. According to the NFL Network's Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo, the Eagles aren't rushing to trade Wentz and currently plan for him to return in 2021, but they are open to offers. After showing signs of being one of the NFL's better young quarterbacks in the first 4 seasons, Wentz took a big step back last season and was replaced by rookie second-round pick Jalen Hurts as a starter after posting a 3-8-1 record. Wentz was among the least productive starting quarterbacks in the NFL last season, completing only 57.4% of his passes for 2,620 yards, 16 touchdowns, and a league-high 15 interceptions. While Wentz played poorly, a lack of weapons played a role in his struggles. Tight end Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, wide receivers Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, and Jaden Reagor, and running back Miles Sanders all missed time due to injuries. The result was an inconsistent Philadelphia offense that ranked 26th in the NFL with only 20.9 points per game. Philly won only one game with Hurts as the starter, but the offense did show more signs of life with him under center than it did with Wentz. Hurts completed 52% of his attempts for 1,061 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, and he rushed for 354 yards and 3 scores. Head coach Doug Peterson made the call to go with Hurts over Wentz, but the Eagles fired him after the season. They hired former Indianapolis Colts offensive coordinator Nick Sirianni as his replacement. Sirianni served under Colts head coach Frank Wright, who was Eagles offensive coordinator from 2016 to 2017 when Wentz was on the top of his game. Given the length between Sirianni and Wright, perhaps Sirianni will be willing to give Wentz another shot as a starter. It could be under the system. That link could also have helped facilitate a trade, though, as the Colts have been speculated as a potential landing spot due to the relationship between Wright and Wentz. With veteran quarterback Philip Rivers deciding to retire, the Colts need a replacement under center. Wentz could be the answer. Rappaport and Garofalo noted that trading Wentz, who signed a 4-year, $128 million contract extension in 2019, would leave the Eagles with $33.8 million in dead money against the salary cap if they do so before his $10 million roster bonus kicks in on March 19th. That would be better than outright releasing Wentz, but keeping him might be the best option of all, especially if Sirianni can help get him back to the player who threw 33 touchdown passes in 13 games in 2017. Wentz has never been able to be the same since a torn ACL cut his 2017 season short. So any team that gives him a shot to be the starting quarterback next season, whether it's the Eagles or a new team, will be rolling the dice to some degree. That's another thing too. He hasn't been right since his injury, and I don't want to be down on this, but sometimes injuries, especially like a torn ACL, guys are never the same after that. I don't want to say that that's with Wentz because I don't want to be negative, and he's so young in his career. But there's been times players tear the ACL who have a bad injury like that, and they just aren't the same. I mean, Wentz too. He used to be a scrambling guy. That's actually where he tore his ACL, was on a run play. He got hit both sides right into the knee. I saw it. It was against the Rams, I think. Things like that. And he hasn't run anymore. I think with that torn ACL, he's gotten a little scared to run. And all of a sudden now, he's turning into a pocket passer, which is not what he is. He's not a pocket passer. He can run. So, that's the part of it, is he might be just worried, and he might just be, kind of just, physically just not able to, really be able to go out there and put a great performance out there anymore. I mean, some guys just do that. They just can't rebound. So we'll see. But it's going to be really interesting. So now I move on to the college basketball and stuff. So yesterday, Georgetown won, St. John's won, Virginia won, Pittsburgh won, Alabama won, South Carolina won, and East Carolina won. A lot of upsets yesterday in those games. Yesterday, Kentucky lost as well. Missouri won 75-70. Kentucky moves to 5-11 on the season. We had a big second half, just weren't able to finish it. Just can't find a way to get things rolling here. We gotta find a way to get better here. As for college basketball, today we got Iowa versus Ohio State. I give Iowa the win. Gonzaga versus Pacific. Give Gonzaga the win. And that's that. NBA yesterday, the Kings won, Pelicans won, Spurs won, Wizards won, Clippers won, Knicks won, Rockets, Thunder won, Mavericks won, 76ers won, and Bucks won. And today, Jazz, Hawks give Jazz the win, Warriors, Mavericks give Mavericks the win, Trailblazers, 76ers give 76ers the win, Grizzlies, Rockets give Grizzlies the win, and Lakers, Nuggets give Lakers the win. Nets don't play today, as they have another off day as well. Yesterday, the Bruins won and Lightning won. And today, we got a ton of NHL games on. We got the Canucks, Maple Leafs give Maple Leafs the win. Panthers, Predators give Panthers the win. Canadiens, Senators give Canadiens the win. Stars, Blue Jackets give Stars the win. Blues, Coyotes give Blues the win. Flames, Jets give Flames the win. Hurricanes, Blackhawks give Hurricanes the win. Avalanche, okay, never mind. Give Hurricanes the win there. The Rangers also play today. The Rangers come into this game at 3. Capitals versus Rangers today. Rangers come into this game 3-4-2. Capitals come into this game 6-1-3. So the Rangers obviously 3-4-2 on the season. Not great. This game comes on at today 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on NHL Network, and you can find it on MSG Network as well. Should be a really good game. I will be watching. Rangers wearing their retro unis. Although I'm not crazy hopeful about this game, I hope we win. I'll just give us a win. But the thing here with the Rangers is the goaltending, and we got to get better goaltending. Shesterkin has shown moments. He's had his moments, and I can't take that away from him. He's had his moments. We got to find a way to get a little bit better in the goaltending side of things. And I think our offense has been fine. Panarin's been really good. He had a 3-point game the other day, 2 assists and a goal, so he's been really good. The guys that we've needed to be good have been good. Kreider's starting to heat up, 3 goals in the last 4 games. Zibanejad needs to start to get going, but Kreider 3 goals in the last 4 games, and Panarin leads the team in points. So Panarin had another goal again. So, I'll give us a win. Reverse retro unis. Let's do this. Go Rangers. So that's what I got for that. So let's get into fantasy basketball and hockey here. So in fantasy basketball, I am winning 797 to 651 right now, so going pretty good there. Today I've got Trae Young, Anthony Davis, Jonas Valanciunas, and Victor Oladipo going. Injury report, Trae Young is day-to-day. Young is questionable for Thursday's game against the Jazz due to a right calf contusion. Brad Rowland of PeachtreeHoops.com reports. Anthony Davis is also day-to-day. Davis quadriceps is probable for Thursday's game against the Nuggets. Kyle Goon of the Orange County Register reports, so that's good. Valanciunas is out. Valanciunas COVID-19 protocols is out Thursday against the Rockets, so he's still out. And Oladipo's day-to-day. Oladipo rest is out Thursday against the Grizzlies. Jonathan Faison of Houston Chronicle reports, so he's also out there. So that's that. And then as for the hockey here, today I've got Mika Zibanejad, Artemi Panarin, Johnny Gaudreau, Nicholas Backstrom. Currently I'm winning 65-25, so I got a big lead there. And I've got Mika Zibanejad, Artemi Panarin, Johnny Gaudreau, Nicholas Backstrom, Braden Sheen, Brock Boeser, Nick Ehlers, Joe Pavelski, Jeff Petrie, Ryan Ellis, Duncan Keith, Shea Weber, and Jamie Benn. And my goalie is Jacob Markstrom. So that's that. And the only out here is Jack Eichel, which I read about yesterday. Their games have been postponed as well. And Panarin is continuing to play well. Panarin's been playing really, really well. So, yeah. So, So that's what I got. That's what I got there for fantasy. Hockey and basketball there. Fantasy hockey, trying to get another win. I've been able to put up big amount of points. I have the second most total points in the league. I'm just going against, players, I've calculated it. First week I went up against the player who had the most points, scored the most points during that week. Second week I went up against the players who scored the most points in that week, or second most. And then this week I have the most points in the league, and my opponent I don't think does the second most. But I've only been able to, my team hasn't been, I've been able to make some acquisitions, obviously. I've been really, first season as NHL, so first season at NHL Fantasy, so I've, managing your roster is a little bit different, with the goalies and the utility and the different bench spots and the more forwards and stuff, so I've been making a little more acquisitions just to try to get players in, and, every player opportunity to get points, I obviously put them in, but there's also been times where I have to use waivers just to try to get, every chance I can get to just get some points on the board. That's one of the big things there. So, so with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. Another great podcast as well. Tomorrow will be the Football Friday podcast, Super Bowl game pick. That will be super exciting. We'll be covering all that good stuff tomorrow, so that will be good. With all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.